Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we're joined by Michael Curtis from two YouTube channels, because I'm going to plug both of them. Which channels are they, Michael?
Mo Ozark Photos, plural on the Ozarks, and then the second one is Photo. I have to
right
look
there.
Foto-Pod Adventures. But one's a travel, one's more about photography, and I haven't been real consistent with the photography one.
But they're both good channels. From what I've seen, the photography is awesome stuff, man. I love your photos. I'm glad we finally got a chance to meet up. We've been talking back and forth on Facebook for quite a while, trying to figure out when to do something, and I just happened to realize, you know, we're going over to Hannibal to do a client shoot, and let's make a weekend of it and meet up in a state park and just hang out and get to know each other.
But we didn't do any photography together.
I know, but
it wasn't a good weekend for it. And I think both you and I expressed the same thing. Summer, we both struggle.
It is in Missouri. It is tough. The woodlands are just, you know, we've got a lot of undergrowth that isn't very photogenic. There are very few pockets that work well, and then the places that would be cool, like Cascades down southeast, people are already swimming by the time the sun's up. So
yeah,
it makes it for a tough thing. But yeah, I'm glad we got to meet up finally, and I'm looking forward to trying to do something maybe this fall if we could.
Yeah,
that'd be a real treat, I think, and I think both our channel viewers would love to see that stuff. Michael, how long have you been doing photography?
I hate to admit this, over 40 years as a professional. I'm a paid professional, and I shared with you I've got a job at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri as the Army photographer, and I'm retiring in December. It's kind of a bittersweet retirement. As I always say, I've never worked a day in my life. So
it's a good job then.
Yeah, it was good. I'm going to miss it, but that's more journalistic. What I'm looking forward to is travel photography. Kind of envious of you. You just got back from a cool trip. And yes, like the rest of your YouTube audience, I'm waiting for the video.
And probably by the time you guys see this, that video series should have already started, and also the fireside chat, which I've been plugging and saying I'm working on. I had to take a weekend off because Parkville was just so crazy. Parkville Days was this weekend, so that kind of dates the video for everybody out there. And with that and the insane construction and everything that's been going on, I just needed to get away and just hang out in a park and just decompress.
And it was a good weekend for that.
It was perfect for that. We had pretty much bluebird skies the whole time we were here, except for at night. We had a little bit of rain the first night. It's the first time Shelly and I got to use the truck bed tent.
And how'd that go for you?
It works. Setting up in the dark,
yeah,
not so much fun.
Yeah,
but and then you're not mobile. You're pretty much fixed unless you want to break down. And breakdown's easy. It's the setup that takes a little bit more time that we need to figure out. So, what's your favorite subject matter out in the wild? You know, what are some of your favorite locations to go to that you just go back to because you know them so well, and you know that if the light's a certain way, you're going to get the shot?
Well, first, it's a seasonal thing. In the fall, I don't live too far. It's called Paddy Creek Wilderness, and of course, I've backpacked the whole 17-mile loop. There's a waterfall there. The winter, I love going out and taking winter landscapes. Pahatonka is a good place.
Yeah.
Elephant Rocks. Love Elephant Rocks in the winter because the crowds are real big during the summer and even fall. So in the winter, I like going down to Elephant Rocks. I recently went down to, and I'm probably going to say it wrong, Mingo National Wildlife Area. It's a swamp area.
That's the area that I was like, what's he doing down in Louisiana? He's a Missouri guy.
Yeah, and it's in Missouri, and and I want to go down there in the fall. Now, one of the problems that I have as a photographer, preconceived ideas. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking these cypress trees are going to be beautiful in the fall, and it may not be. But I'm going to make the trip anyway.
That's worth checking it out. Yeah. That's one thing that's really cool about having photographic locations around us here in Missouri. And a lot of people don't realize how much we actually have, because most people think it's a Central Plains state.
Yeah.
The problem is Missouri's got the Ozark Plateau, it's got some plains, it's got Lost Bluffs, it's got a little bit of everything. And there's not a lot of people out here doing what we do. And that's why when, you know, we met up on Facebook, I was like, wow, this guy's got some really good stuff. Because quite frankly, not to knock the guys in the Missouri Landscape group, but some of them, you know,
they're snapshots.
They're snapshots.
And we started there.
Yep, we started there too. So, but you go in that group, and there are some good photographers in there. There's some really good stuff in there. And then there's some that they're just starting, and you're like, I see the composition you're going for, but you really need a little bit better light for that shot.
Yeah.
But people don't think of Missouri as a place to go photograph.
And you said it right the other night. You said the flyover state.
Yep,
Everybody
we're flyover.
thinks we're flyover state, and it couldn't be further from the truth.
Yep. So seeing as you're retiring soon, what are your big trips that are coming up? Because I know that if Shelly and I could just pack it into a trailer and leave for a month, 2 months, or 3 months, maybe even 6 max, we'd be hitting a lot of national parks and spending a lot of time in them.
Well, and I turned a certain age, and I found out you can buy your the pass for the national parks, and it's free for the rest of my life. So that's going to be a good thing. We're going to Key West is one of our first. We've never been there. My wife and I are both Army brats. We've traveled a lot in our lifetime, but it's time to start traveling again. So we're going to do Key West and Big Bend National Park, and I told you that was a must for you.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to do Big Bend in Texas, and then we have another trip with Foto-Pod Adventures to a R-Pod rally in, what's it called? And I just went blank. Not Tybee Island. It's in Georgia. It's an island of Jekyll, something like that. And then we're going to the one I really want to go to, and you've been there, Glacier National Park.
Yeah.
So we're really looking forward to that trip as a photographer. I mean, I'm gonna do a lot of that.
So for me, if I was given the choice between Glacier or Yellowstone, I'd go Glacier.
Would you really?
Glacier is it's alpine scenes. There's lots of hiking. There's waterfalls. I mean, if you hit it at the right time of year, you've got waterfalls. You still got snow. I was disappointed because a lot of the glaciers have retreated so much that they're not visible anymore. So that's kind of a where we're at with what we've been doing to the environment. But glaciers is one of my favorite parks.
Man, you're just building me up. I can't wait to get there.
Unfortunately, we did that trip back in 2012 when I wasn't doing YouTube. I did some video in Yellowstone, and I'm like, oh, this is never going to catch on. Nobody's ever going to watch video on the internet.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yeah, I was so wrong.
And how I came across your channel was funny because I was looking up Missouri landscape photographers, and yours came up, and I watched you. And as I shared with you earlier, you're such a mellow guy, man. And he sounds this way in person.
Thank you.
You do. You got this mellow voice, and you're not. You walk away. I walk away from your videos learning something, and even as a 40-year professional, I'm learning from this guy. So old dog photographer can learn new tricks, and that mellow vibe that you bring across in your videos, I absolutely love.
Well, I'm glad it comes across as mellow, because sometimes in the field it's not
chaotic.
Very mellow.
Chaotic.
No. Yeah, it gets chaotic, and it's sometimes I'm doing it for the fun and trying to make new connections, because a lot of times landscape photographers are solitary animals.
Yes.
We're a little skittish around groups and people, and it just through YouTube, I think a lot of us are starting to learn, hey, we can get together, we can go photograph in the same area, and we're all going to come away with totally different visions.
And we're probably, like, you see some of the other guys, I may go shoot composition over here, you may go someplace else. I am going to try to talk them in doing a workshop.
We'll see how that works. But yeah, it does interest me. I know I said this with Sean and Korean when we met up with them, and then we did the RV, or I should probably call them RV side chats instead of fireside, because trying to shoot on this equipment with a fire, not going to work very well. When we did that talk, I talked about later this fall, usually I used to call it my 28-day challenge. So it's November, 28 days. Go out, shoot a picture, process a picture, one a day.
Cool, I like that.
And a few years ago, that challenge for me was downtown and incorporating the downtown skyline and different things into it, like the rivers of light, like trails and things like that. The different angles of the sun coming in through different valleys and things. So I did a series of photos, 28 photos, and some of them were not portfolio worthy, I admit. But the challenge is to find something that you're happy with. Each day, make that photo in the field, and then go back and do the post-processing, what you call the bake.
Yeah.
So, and that's one thing I love about your channel is on the photography channel, Michael does this thing where he goes out and does the take, and then he does the bake as another episode. So he goes through the post-processing. You don't go too in-depth.
No, I try to keep it because it gets boring after a while.
But you give enough that you can...
I tease them.
I can see exactly what you're doing,
right,
and why you're doing it. And, when you see that, when you see a raw image and then you see a post-process image, you understand why photography is making a photograph.
Right.
Because half of it is taking the image in the field, and the other half is actually bringing that image back to life the way you saw it as the photographer when you were there.
Well said. Well said. I've shared with you, I do enjoy the bake part. I was going to be a commercial artist. I love to draw and paint, and the Lightroom technique is the painting of the photograph for me. So I do enjoy that part.
Your processing's spot on too.
Thank you.
It's really good stuff.
Thank you.
Your photography is just...
And I'm learning how to slow down.
Yeah.
And I think retirement will help me.
Part of that's that you're going from a photojournalistic style to the landscape.
Shoot,
yep.
to the landscape.
You got to get the shot. You got to get the shot, and if that's spray and pray a little bit.
Yeah.
But in those situations, that's all you have to do. Because I've done weddings, and that's you shoot thousands of frames just to get the 50 that you're going to try to sell the client on.
But we do learn something from that process. For me, I'm speaking for me personally, I have to slow down. I have to tell my brain, okay, you don't have to take 60 pictures of this one. Let's work for just 2 good. And so I'm looking forward to the retirement, because then I don't have an agenda, I guess.
That, and well, the problem that Shelly and I have now is we love to do trips, and we used to do 2 big trips a year and do photography. And when you've only got 4 weeks of vacation,
right,
and you do 2 big trips, and they're either a week and a half or 2 weeks each, that's all your vacation time. And you get what you get, because you can't like take your trailer, park it somewhere for a week or 2 and get the perfect conditions, or as close to the perfect conditions as possible.
Right.
You're in Yellowstone or Glacier, or when we did the Pacific Northwest, which I've got a whole playlist from that. That's the first real video series that I did. We were changing places every 2 days. Wow. So it was like maybe a night or 2 nights in one place, and we were driving to locations, and the weather was what we got.
Right.
And luckily in the Pacific Northwest, you can pretty much gauge a certain time of year you're going to get this weather, these times of day. Hopefully you just don't get fogged out.
Yeah, and I envy those guys like you and I we watch other YouTubers, and they may have a whole month in one location, and they can pick the weather and all that. You and I now, we go out and hope for the best, and make the best of what's given too. Yep. So that's a big difference.
So on the note of other YouTube photographers, who else are you watching? I mean, do you draw any inspiration from anybody else out there on YouTube?
Nick Page.
Okay.
I absolutely love watching Nick Page. You remind me a lot of Nick Page.
Michael's the second person in Missouri that says, "You're the Nick Page of Missouri." And
That's right.
I know it's a compliment, and Nick, I'm sorry, I'm not as good as you are, man.
But Nick is that mellow guy, and both of you have that. But I want to go storm chasing sometime. Maybe tornadoes, things like that. But Nick Page, I love his channel. You and I both watch some RV channels.
Yep.
KYD.
Yep.
KYD. KYD's, there's the shirt.
Yeah.
Who else? We talked about the Hanks.
The Hanks.
Love the Hanks. Photography, Thomas Heaton.
Yep.
But we were talking, all those guys are on the Lake District. We want Missouri to be represented somehow.
Yeah. So we're trying.
Yeah,
we're trying. So other than YouTube and current photographers that are working, what previous photographers do you really look at for inspiration or motivation?
And there's a guy that I went to college with, 4x5, large frame, Clifton Carr. He's still a photographer, still does the 4x5. I love his work, but because I knew him when I was going to college. Of course, Ansel Adams, everybody follows Ansel Adams, and I was sharing with you guys the other night, I actually got to see the print.
Oh, yeah.
I bought the books, but the print, if you ever have the opportunity to see an Ansel Adams original print, it would just blow you away.
Well, that's the other thing that we've been talking about, because we've been hanging out since Friday. This is Sunday. We both have to pack up and leave, which I'll tell you, trailers are the way to go, people. You just throw everything in the trailer and in the truck and you're done.
That's right.
The tent, it's cheap, quick, easy, but not so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing that a lot of people, I think, well, the younger generations, I'm going to say, because, you know, we're not that far apart in age, but those younger generations that haven't really had the tactile sensation of the print and the darkroom experience, some of those photographers are missing it, some things. I mean, there are photographers that are really capable digital artists, but I still believe photography is you take it, you make it, you print it.
Yeah.
And it's not really a photograph until it's tangible.
Yeah, and you're talking, you and I old school, we want to feel the print, and just seeing the print mounted and finished and put on a wall, there's something about that that just brings pleasure to a photographer. So,
and I think I've seen a few of Ansel Adams' prints, but I've got several of the books because back in college, I did some photojournalism classes for my communication arts degree, and in there it was hounded into me, the zone system, dodging and burning. And you record your settings in the field no matter what you're shooting.
Right.
That way when you go back to the darkroom, you can just get your work done and be out of it.
I forgot about the notebooks you used to carry. We used to carry around notebooks, exposure, and all that.
I've seen those. They're still sold at the dollar store.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who uses those anymore? Because nowadays I don't need them because that's in the metadata.
Yeah. And we talked about that, and that's a good point you brought up. We're both did the wet process.
Yep.
Now we're both digital photographers, so we kind of retrained ourselves to this new digital photography. And I quoted several years ago, digital will never catch on. I love the digital darkroom.
For me, I've got asthma and some breathing issues and allergies. Chemicals irritate the heck out of me. For my darkroom, I had to go in and build out a HEPA filtration system, and I could only be in it for so long. I had to wear gloves. It was more of a pain. I loved seeing the image come to life in the tray.
Magic stuff.
But once digital really took off and I got my first camera, I was back hooked in the game, and I was like, well, why is everybody complaining about Photoshop? Because 95% of the stuff I do in Photoshop, I used to do in a darkroom.
Exactly.
So it's really no different.
No, but I agree that I didn't think it'd catch on, but I love spending an evening sitting in front of the computer, editing the photos, and not smelling or feeling like a mushroom.
Oh, yeah.
Love that part of it.
Yep.
Cool.
Well, thank you all for watching. It's been great hanging out with Michael all weekend. His wife has been paddleboarding because, quite frankly, she's not on the bandwagon as much as Shelly is, but she's a good sport. So thanks again for watching. If you haven't yet done so, hit that subscribe button, ding the bell for future notifications, give me a big thumbs up, and then head on over to Michael's channels. I'll have them down below in links, and we'll see you next time.